What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review, and this time we're taking a look at When a Stranger Calls Back, written and directed by Fred Walton. This is the made-for-TV sequel to his 1979 cult classic. Once again, Carol Kane and Charles Durning return, this time to help another girl who is being stalked by a suspicious man. So yeah, that's the overall story of When a Stranger Calls Back. Let's briefly go over this movie and make this review as short and sweet as possible. Overall, I think I like this movie more than I did the first movie, mainly because When a Stranger Calls Back did what I feel the first movie should have done, which is have a more consistent flow. This movie has got a very good opening, and it's done very different as opposed to that first movie. So the girl Julia, babysitter, watching a bunch of kids, some weirdo starts to stalk her, and she gets upset. But what makes it more creative is that the conversations she's having with the weirdo is happening while the guy is supposedly outside and she's inside. It's revealed that the stalker is actually a ventriloquist and is able to throw his voice. That's actually kind of interesting. That's actually a unique take. That's actually something unique, and I like it, and it works, and it spruces up the first half of the movie a lot, and I enjoyed it. I like it. It doesn't have the same nail-biting tension as the first 23 minutes of the first half of the original movie, but for a recreation, for a more 90s aesthetic, for a more 90s take, I thought it was done fairly well. Now, it's what happens after the prologue is what I feel is more interesting, which is following the character of Julia, seeing how the events of that night psychologically scarred her, and also knowing the fact that the kids that she was watching weren't murdered, but they were abducted, never to be seen or heard from again. And we never get really, and we don't really get no revelation as to what happened to those kids at all. But seeing the character of Julia being psychologically broken by what happened 5 years earlier, and seeing her try to just live a normal life, but constantly having like these paranoid delusions that something might be happening, that something's happening to her, and someone's going inside her apartment and just dropping little clues and hints. I like it. It's that psychological breakdown that we did not get in that first movie with Carol Kane. In the first movie, Carol Kane appears in the beginning, then she comes back in the end, and we don't know what happens to her throughout the course, and we don't know what happens to her in that movie at all. In this one, we get little tidbits here and there as to what happened with her leading up to the ending of the first movie. We find out that she says it took her a long time to recover, and after a while she did. And I do like the fact of her being a guidance counselor to the character of Julia, a kindred spirit, if you will. And Carol Kane in this movie, I thought her performance in this movie was better than it was in that first movie. I think it's because she's more seasoned as an actress, and she's bringing this weathered presence to the role as somebody who understands where Julia is coming from and truly wants to be there to help her in case something bad were to happen. I like it. She kind of takes the role of a motherly figure to the character of Julia. Now, things that I don't like with the character of Jill is what happened to her children, what happened to her husband, why aren't they mentioned, what's going on here, how does she go from having a family at the end of the first movie, all of a sudden she lives by herself, she's paranoid, and she's a guidance counselor at a college. What happened to her family? That's never revealed. It's almost as if Fred Walton erased that whole portion of the movie from the last movie from existence, because there's virtually no mention of it at all. And if there is mention of it, it's maybe a sneeze and you miss it and then never go back to it again. I don't like that, because you're taking a big portion of Jill's development from that first movie and you pretty much rendered it utterly pointless. Where are they? Because I think you could have utilized her family in this movie as well. It could have been something different to do. It could have been something unique. But I do like the return of Charles Durning as Clifford. He was one of my favorite parts from that last movie, and seeing him come back here, I enjoyed it. I think I think Durning and Carol Kane have very good on-screen chemistry with each other as these two friends who bonded over a shared experience, and I liked it. I like the whole investigation aspect of this movie is better than it was in the first movie because it's connected to the victim. Clifford's investigation is connected to Julia. He's trying to find out about this guy. And through his investigation, that's when we learn that he's a ventriloquist, how he's able to throw his voice and stuff like that. We don't get no motive as to why he was doing the things he was doing. They didn't really get much of a motive in the last movie either, so it's whatever. But I like it. It's cool. I also like the fact that we don't see that this is not that we don't follow the killer in this movie as opposed to the last movie. I like how the killer is kept mostly mysterious in this one. And I actually do like the idea of him using like a makeup to help him blend in with the shadows of whatever apartment or house he's hiding in, which adds to a whole new level of creepiness and a whole new level to always be on your guard. I like that. I thought that stuff was really well handled. Good stuff. Not bad. Like I said, this movie did what I wanted that first movie to do, which is follow the main characters more and have the investigation be more connected to the victim and not just Clifford being hired by the dad to go kill the dude. This is better. To me this is much more creepier when it's more contained as in this movie. And you do get to a pretty thrilling climax at Jill's apartment where she holds her own for a moment against this guy Landis, who's revealed to be the killer. We think that Landis is going to get the kill shot, but then Clifford at the last minute comes in and shoots that motherfucker dead bang, which is great. And then Jill survives. Early in the movie, Julia had actually tried to commit suicide in her own apartment, and and she's pretty much taken out for the last portion of the film. And that's where it focuses more on Clifford and Jill, which is okay because, it's the first two characters from the last movie. Though I think I would have had Jill be the one in the hospital and Julia be the one to take down her stalker, since she's supposed to be our focal point. But the movie kind of shifts back to Jill, and she kind of hogs the spotlight from the new character. So, and like in my opinion, Julia never really had any closure to the events of what happened to her, because it just goes back to Jill. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. You took the shine away from Julia, who was robbed of getting her gratification by finally stepping up to the person that was, stalking her and ruining her life. I didn't like that at all. That's a big gripe for me because it shifts focus back to Jill again at the end of the movie. Instead of Julia and Cliff, it's Jill and Cliff. And like I said, I didn't care for that. The middle portion of this movie, like the first one, does have its moments where it can be very, very tedious and very slow in a lot of areas, but it still can keep your interest for the most part until you get to the ending, and that's when everything is pretty much gets wrapped up and it ends. I don't really have that much else to say about When a Stranger Calls Back. At the end of the day, I'm going to give this movie a solid 6 out of 10. I liked it on the par of the first movie, but maybe slightly more. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comment sections down below. Like the video and subscribe, and I'll check you back next time for more.